Welcome to Season 3 of the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast, the bi-weekly show that brings you the best of powerlifting in Canada. Our three co-hosts include Ryan Stinn, holder of the highest equipped total in Canada, as well as owner of Unparalleled Training Centre in Moose Jaw, and co-owner of Inner Strength Products, Steve Cassioli, IPF world record holder and medalist, third strongest Canadian classic powerlifter of all time, and owner of Cassioli Strength and Conditioning. Lastly, Avi Silverberg, world bench press medalist, national team coach, and co-owner of MyStrengthBook.com. Today's episode starts right now.
This season of the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast is brought to you by MyStrengthBook.com. MyStrengthBook is a web-based platform for powerlifters to build workouts, plan training programs, and assess training metrics that lead to better performance on the platform. Tracking and analyzing training metrics allow you to uncover key trends and insights on what works for you and the precise variables that lead to greater success. Say goodbye to pen and paper tracking and hard-to-use spreadsheets. Say hello to MyStrengthBook. Sign up now for a free trial at www.mystrengthbook.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast. It's 2017. We haven't sat down and recorded since 2016 before Christmas. So happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. We have a fantastic episode. I say that every week, but this week we have a special guest, Keith McHoney from South Carolina. If you don't know who Keith is, he is the 66 kilo men's open national champion since 2014. He is a two-time Arnold Sports Festival champion and a silver medalist at the 2016 IPF Classic World Championships. Now, Keith is a really interesting guy, and we talk about some quite taboo subjects in terms of his training, programming, what he actually does in the gym, which is, from our standpoint, a little bit mind-blowing in terms of what he does in the gym and how he sets up his weekly training program. And his warm-ups in competition. We really get into talking about how he warms up in a meet, which is essentially he doesn't warm up. He just goes from sitting to doing his opening attempts, and he discusses through some of the reasons why he does that. And it's really, really unconventional, and it's a really interesting conversation. We also get into a little bit of a controversial topic as of late. Many people might have heard that Keith was not invited to compete at the 2017 World Championships. And the 2017 World Championships, you basically get an invite, whether you're from Canada or whether you're from the US, you get an invite if you win your class at nationals. That's basically your guaranteed entry into the World Championships. He was the 2016 national champion, and so therefore earned a spot on the 2017 2017 World Championships, but the USAPL did not sanction his participation. He wasn't invited on the team, and there's a little bit of controversy around that. There's been lots of stuff on social media in terms of why that was the case, and we talk a little bit about that as well, and you get to hear it from Keith himself. So a fantastic episode here for you, but first we're going to have a little bit of a round table, and we're going to start with Steve talk about some of the technique reviews that have come in through our Facebook page. So if you don't know, every episode of this season, we've been simply just taking videos through our Facebook page at just constantly. So if you want to get in on these technique reviews, just submit your video on the Facebook page, and we'll review all the videos that come in. And then the next time that we do the recording, we'll do a technique review of some of the athletes that have submitted, and Steve's going to do review one athlete right here for you. Steve, what do you got from us?
Yeah, so we got a video income from I think what's his name, Mike Brennan, and his Instagram name is Powerlifting Chicken Farmer. If you want to take a look at what we're talking about here, so he sent in a video, and he's widened his foot position in the sumo. So he kind of mentions that his lockout felt strange, and he was a little bit cautious about it. So this is 580 pounds that he has on the bar here. So by the look of it, he's in a pretty, his upper body's in a really good position. He locks it down really well. Off the ground, it may look like he's not getting his like knees out off the ground a little bit as much as he should be and getting his hips in. So, I mean, if this is like one of the first times you've done this, it's obviously going to feel like a little bit awkward. So like the wider your stance is going to be a little bit more on the hips. And so I'd recommend, starting like a little bit lighter and kind of just focusing on that movement pattern and really driving those knees out, trying to get those hips. And you have your backs locked down pretty well, but just, I mean, it's going to take practice in creating that new like movement pattern. But yeah, as for like the toe angle and stuff like that, like the wider your the more angled you have your toes out there, just try to track your knees over your toes. But other than that, that's why I think the lockout felt a little bit slow. I mean, it's probably one of your first times like widening the stance, but just being a little bit more patient off the ground, and you're gonna have to keep your knees out a little bit longer with that wider stance there, and just working on that hip mobility overall. But other than that, looks good. And I would just drop the weight down, practice some like tempo reps, like couple seconds up, couple seconds down, just ingraining that movement pattern with some lighter weights, or even some pauses off the ground, just reinforcing the vertical shin and keeping the knees behind the bar.
Yeah, great comments there, Steve. I know Mike fairly well. I coached him in 2015 and 2016. I know he's a really strong conventional puller, and obviously doing a little bit more sumo now. And it takes a long time to, as you said, ingrain that movement pattern. But I like hearing that you're almost taking a holistic approach to analyzing technique. I think a lot of people would see that, oh, well, here's this athlete who has an issue with lockout, and so therefore they just go straight to talking about lockout. But what you're saying is you're understanding that aspects in one area of the range of motion have an impact in the other ranges of motion. Yeah. And so, you're saying, work a little bit more on the bottom position so that the actual lockout can become a little bit smoother. So I really, really like those comments. Just a little bit about the Central Canadian Powerlifting Championships. This is a new regional championships that was brought in last year, actually a proposal that I brought forward to the executive. And it's a championship that that involves Ontario and Quebec. And there was tons of lifters. I think there was over 200 lifters and a 3 or 4 day competition. And you were there doing some coaching, and you were there with Inner Strength Products. You guys had a booth, I saw. And what else? Tell us about the championships. Tell us about your involvement and how it was.
Yeah, we we went primarily set up for Inner Strength Products, which was good. We had a table set up for most of the 4 days of the championship, and we had lots of people come by and visit with us. So it was a fun time. Always good to meet some of our customers we've talked to online or whatnot, and always good to catch up with some people that you don't get to see too often. So that was fun. I also had 3 of my athletes competing at the championships, including one from Alberta actually, who was just trying to get that regional championship kind of checked off the requirement when it's close to an easy to get to airport, right? For lots of people, it's easier to get to Toronto than it was to necessarily get to Kelowna to go to Westerns. So I had three athletes, and overall everyone did quite well. A few people all of them had competed not too long ago, about 8 weeks ago. So it was a very short training cycle up to this, especially with Christmas in there. So some limited expectations for people, but overall getting more experience under the bar at a major championship is always a good thing. So had fun competing, or had fun coaching some people. And overall it was a well-run championship. I think everything started on time. Like there's about 260 athletes or so. Yeah, it was some very full days, but some good lifting all around. Ended up with Jason Burney, who's he's been competing in the sport for probably longer than me. I want to say 10 or 12 years, and he finished by pulling 800 pounds raw, 365 kilos. Yeah, it was the first time someone in Canada has pulled 800 pounds since I think 1983, when Tom McGee pulled it at I think a world championship. And the next year, 1984, is when drug testing came in, and no one's pulled that much since. So, it's a pretty hefty accomplishment for Jay, and I know he's been chasing it for quite a while. So, really happy to see him hit something like that. Also, another thing, Kelly Brandt was there. I know it's gotten a little bit of traction on social media, but Kelly was up there spotting and loading. To see someone like Kelly, who's the top lifter in Canada on the classic side, at least, up there giving back to the sport. It really reaches out to me that no one's too good to give back. If you're just getting into the sport, you've kind of come into a sport that's kind of established. I know when I started the sport, it was much smaller, and really everyone kind of had to give back to make it run. But now, if you come into the sport this day and age, there's already a pretty well established selection of volunteers. So maybe you don't feel like you're needed to step in and help out, but trust me, it always helps. The same volunteers get kind of stepped on over and over again, and because they're willing to help. But I think it's important for everyone to try to give back. I'm not necessarily saying you have to, get on your provincial executive or anything like that. You don't have to get on the political side of it, but go out and volunteer to meet, help at the table, help on the platform. It'll take a little bit of time out of your day, but it makes a difference, because if no one does it, then there's gonna be no meets. So I'm just encourage everyone to try and get out and give back to the sport in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Great take-home message. And yeah, just back to Jay Burney there. I was actually live commentating that session there, and from a distance. I wasn't actually at the championship, but we were able to remotely do the live commentating. And yeah, he took like 342 or something on his second attempt, something like that. And in my head, I was like, he's probably good for 10 or 15 more. But then he jumps 22K to get to the 800-pound, deadlift, and I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. And yeah, him locking out was really, really cool. And just a quick note, because I feel a little bit bad for Ontario athletes a little bit, because they're required. I mean, most provinces have this rule where you have to participate in some capacity at their provincial championships each year if you want to, stamp your ticket to nationals. In Alberta, it's volunteer or lift. But in Ontario, you have to lift, right? And their provincial championships was in late November, and then there's centrals, which if you have not done a nationals before, so if you're first-time nationals competitor, you're having to do that meet. And then nationals is only 8 weeks from centrals. So you're literally competing, 3 times within 16 weeks, and you potentially have to peak for, more than one of those. So it's, I feel bad a little bit, but, it's all part of the game. It's all part of the game. So a little bit about what's going on my side of things. I'm participating in a pretty cool opportunity this weekend, January 21st and 22nd, at the annual Alberta Powerlifting Union Coaching Summit. And this year we brought in some big brand name coaches to present, Mike Tashur being one of them, and Bryce Lewis. And we have some great regional coaches as well. John Stewart, Bryce Krawczyk's presenting, Shane Martin, and myself. So I'm putting together a presentation on metrics-based training, and I'll be talking about how to the importance of obviously tracking your metrics, but how to actually gather and collect evidence in an effective way, so you can take that information and then turn it back into something useful that you're able to impact your training with. And so I think there's lots of numbers that we can track, but there's numbers that can have a real impact on how you actually view your training and progression, and how you actually set up training cycles. So that'll be the topic of my conversation. And I think what I'm going to do is hopefully there'll be the capacity to video it. I'm going to get hooked up to a mic, and hopefully I'll put that out on YouTube. That's it. That's all that we have for you in this intro, but we're going to roll the podcast with Keith McHoney. McHoney? Keith McHoney.
McHoney.
K-Mac. All right, this week on the podcast, we're sitting down with Keith McHoney here, K-Mac from South Carolina. And if you don't know who Keith is, he's a fantastic 66-kilo open athlete, competed at the Arnold Sports Festival, and this past year at the 2016 IPF Classic World Championships, where he placed second at that event. An unbelievable lifter, and we're really excited to sit down and have a chat with Keith. So Keith, a lot of us might have seen your results and know your name by now, but not a lot of us know about your background story. So how did you get involved in the sport, and where do you train, and things like that. So can you just tell us about how you kind of got into the sport, and a little bit about your background?
All right. Well, in high school, I always loved football. But as y'all can see, I'm not the tallest. I never was the fastest. So to get on the field, I had to work out in the gym. And before I knew it, I became very strong. Still wasn't fast, still wasn't tall. So I just kept pushing at it. Football never worked out. But then when I got out of school, I was strong, but I was light. I could squat over 400, bench 300, but only weigh 120 pounds.
Wow.
And this part is kind of funny, but not too many people know about it. I was talking to this girl, and we ended up having a bad breakup. So all I did was eat and lift, and I went up to 150. And my brother said,
That's
it's amazing how in about 3 months I gained 20 pounds.
yeah,
And
man.
my
I think
brother
we all
said,
have.
you got to do something with it.
I think we all have kind of a story about want to look good with our shirts off, for a girl. So tell us a little bit about so you finished high school and then you realized you were strong and then tell us about your kind of how you got into your first meet. Did you meet a group of guys? Do you have a coach in terms of somebody who got you in, or did you just say
Well,
screw it, I'm just going to register?
nah, I didn't know nothing about powerlifting. Where I'm from, there's no powerlifters. When you go 20, 30 minutes outside of that, you might find some like 5 or 6. But where I'm from, there's no powerlifters. And brother told me I was too strong not to show the world what I can do. So I went online and sent my YouTube videos to like 12 people. And only one guy responded back to me, a guy named Barry Ricard from Goose Creek, South Carolina. And he told me everything I need to do, told me the general rules of powerlifting. And from that day, I started powerlifting.
Now, Keith, do you have
Very cool.
Do you kind of do your own? So when you go in the gym, do you have like a coach that kind of like gives you like a guide or anything like that, or is this all just you just go in and by feel and kind of do what you got to do?
Like I never had a coach for lifting weights at all. I've had people that I've watched. I've tried things, didn't work. Tried things that it worked since I was 14. When I started powerlifting, I realized my body does certain things good. And then it became a challenge to me. Like, well, let me see what I can get out of this and see what I can get out of that. So I just started doing everything on my own, and some things work, some things don't.
Yeah, it just kind of speaks to the process of experimentation. And I know like Ryan has talked about on the podcast before about how, you kind of have to be a scientist in a way, like, trial and error, collect evidence, see what works. And, if it's working, great, keep doing it. And if it's not, then you got to kind of switch it up. I find it interesting that, you emailed 12 guys to see how to get in the sport and, see what it's all about. And only one guy responded. It's kind of interesting. Like if that wouldn't have happened, you wouldn't have been in the sport and people wouldn't kind of know who you were.
Yeah, till this day, I always you. Like you see, like a lot of posts I'll put his name in it. Like if it wasn't for him, I would just be lifting weights at home right now. Nobody would ever see me.
So Keith, do you have like a set program that you like lay out for 10 or 12 weeks, or do you just kind of do everything based on feel?
I do everything on feel. Like I'll create a program right now, and after the next competition, depending on how I do, what I do in certain lifts, I'll see if I change it, I'll twerk it, I'll keep it the same. So,
and we know that you're training for the Arnolds right now. So you're building up to the Arnolds. And what are sort of, I think a lot of people would want to know kind of, what an elite lifter does in terms of like the day to day, like what does somebody do who like, you go into the gym, like what does your week look like? Do you have like, like how many times a week are you squatting, benching, deadlifting? Like, are you going in the gym and, what do your workouts look like? That's what people kind of want to know.
Like on Monday, it's my bench day. I do a little bit of leg workout, a little bit of ab workout, but mainly bench. Tuesday, all I do is squat. On Wednesday, all I do is deadlift. On Thursday, I do the same workout I did Monday. And on Friday, I do the same workout I did Tuesday. Only thing that ever changed, sometimes at night, I might throw in some accessory work, but sometimes my job won't allow that.
So you go into the gym and you just do the competition lifts. Like physically you look like a pretty shredded guy, you got a lot of muscle, but is that just genetics, or is that based on sort of like training that you've done in the past? Or are you doing a lot of accessory movements?
It's 80% genetics. It's some of what I do, but it's 80% genetics. It's funny. People ask me that all the time, and I don't know what to tell them. Like, that's just natural. I wish I could say I do how to get it, but that's natural.
Yeah. So week to week, you say you go to the gym and you bench Mondays, you squat Tuesdays, you deadlift Wednesdays, and you kind of repeat Thursday, repeat Friday from your Monday and Tuesday workouts. How does that progress week to week then? So, can you give us a layout of kind of like big picture, like, if you're building up to the Arnolds like you are now, like kind of what are you doing on week 1 and how do you progress to like week 8 or 12 to that competition peak? Like, can you give us a sense of kind of what your week to weeks look like?
Like week 1 is essentially light week. It's really, to me, it's like 4 weeks now. I changed it up over time. Now it's like 4 weeks. Week 1 is lightweight. Week 2 will get heavier. Week 3 will get heavier. And week 4, everything I'm doing in bench and squat might be I can do 2 or 3 times. Like on week 4, my squats is 500, 5 sets of 2. My bench is 336, 5 sets of 2.
So you have these kind of like ballpark workouts, like in your mind, you have like these workouts that you're building up to. And then every 4 weeks, are you repeating those workouts and you're just trying to like think about, okay, I'm trying to move the bar quicker this week? Or are you actually from 1 week 4 to the next set of week, with the week 4 workouts where you do that 5 sets of 2, you're saying at 500? Like, are you continuing with the same weight and just focusing on bar speed, or are you trying to bring the weight up? Like, what's sort of your progression there?
And I bring the weight up from week 1 to week 4, but the next week 1 through 4, I keep the weight the same. I just want to keep repeating till I get to the competition and my body does it naturally. That it looks like a natural movement. It doesn't look like I'm straining or struggling.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, Keith. So I don't know if these guys know, but you just squatted 250 kilos in the gym there that I saw.
Yeah, it felt great, but my body weight was like at 147, so I wasn't too happy about that.
Man, I saw that. I'm like, damn, he's coming for my record.
You know what's so funny? When you squatted, 538, I swear about 15 people kept sending me that video over and over and over.
Really?
Yeah, I got tagged people I didn't even know. They kept sending me the videos. Hey, you see this? You see this? Yeah, man, he's a great lifter.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So, so just tell us a little bit about, obviously we were talking about your training, but I just want to kind of backstep a little bit and talk about some of the successes you see in the sport. In case nobody's heard of you before, talk about some of your achievements in the sport. So I first actually saw you at the Arnold's. I was there and I saw you lift in person. I think it was either in 2015 or maybe it was this past year in 2016. But maybe you could just tell us, some of your successes in the sport. What sorts of championships have you been to, the medals that you've won, any records, things like that?
The championships, I won the national championship for the USAPL for 2014, 15, and 16. I won the Arnold 2015 and 2016. But the 2 biggest things I've done so far, to me, biggest accomplishment, is 600 and lifting 10 times body weight. When I first tried to lift 10 times body weight, I had like 3 competitions where I lift 9.96, 9.98, 9.99. That was driving me nuts. That's my biggest accomplishment right there. I really wanted to get that. Yeah,
it's so cool. It's so cool to hear how it's kind of a process. Everybody kind of wants something immediately, but it takes a few shots at it before you actually actually see that happen in competition, right?
Yeah, man, it takes time.
So tell us about Worlds this year. You went and you competed at the 2016 IPF World Championships. I think that was your first Worlds, if I'm not mistaken. How did you feel about your performance? I know that you and Steve were competing in the same class there, and Steve had a good day, but had expectations for the podium. You obviously saw the podium yourself. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, they got certain rules in place at Worlds, so that wasn't the best experience for me. I didn't get to do nothing I normally do, so it wasn't really nothing to try to think about. I'm just waiting for the Arnold this year. I'm just waiting for the Arnold this year right now. Like, the World wasn't it's not for me.
Were you happy with the second place finish? I know a lot of people, obviously you had your eyes set on gold there. Like, to me, that's a huge accomplishment. Like, I know that a lot of people aim for medals at the World Championships, and just to be on the podium is quite an experience. Can you talk a little bit about the experience for those? Because I know there's a lot of athletes who don't get to achieve that sort of level of success. They don't get to go to the Arnolds. They don't get to go to Worlds. What was it like for you?
I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. I never try to get gold. I never try to win. Each competition, I just want to do better than I did before. I want to make sure I push myself in each lift and each thing I did. The World Championship, they didn't allow me to do that. So it's not nothing I really want to talk about. I talk about a lot.
Sure. I know that in the warm room, because I don't know if you know this, but Ryan and I were coaching Steve at the event, and we obviously had our eye on you because we're all competitive in the competition, and we were going up for squats, and we were like looking over at you, and we're like, Keith hasn't even started warming up on squats yet. Does he know that we're going? Like, does he know that we're actually, ready? Like, it's time to squat now. But I guess you have kind of a unique, kind of like warm up routine. Can you at least talk about that? I mean, like, you don't really do many warm up sets, or if any warm up sets. Can you talk a little bit about, like, I mean, that's pretty interesting. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, that's one of those things where I tell people, but I guess because the way the sport is, not a lot of people understand. Since high school, I've never been able to warm up and do good. I keep trying it different ways, different things. It never works. So now I don't warm up. And my first attempt is kind of low. And I go as deep as I can in it. So my body, everything gets warmed up then. So by the time my second attempt, I can go max. I'm close to my max. My body's feeling just fine.
That's crazy, man. Like, I mean, just like thinking about that, it's like if I'm just trying to think if like I replicated that or anything, like I don't know what would happen to me. So when you put that like bar on, like, so what do you take for a warm up? Like your first one, you take just one?
I don't do warm up at all.
None.
The only time I've ever had to do a warm up was the first year at the Arnold. The temperature was like 10 degrees, 5 degrees outside. So it was so cold. I had to do I did 400 like 2 times. That's the only time. I've never been that cold before.
This is like super interesting because like I think you're like the only one that like has ever done that, like, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
trust me, I hear it all the time.
Like when you put like that, like say for example, like your 500 squat open on your back, like does it like physically like feel heavy to you, or like you're expecting it to feel heavy and you're kind of like in like the back of your head, you kind of thinking that like something bad may happen? Or
I used to think about that when I was younger in high school. It's like, what if I get hurt? There's so much weight. And then I realized, like, this is life. I can get hurt walking outside. So why am I fearing the weights? Like, just go for it. Whatever happens, happens. I put myself in the right position where I wouldn't get hurt. So I got to hope for the best.
That's true. Because like, has this resulted in an injury at all? Have you ever been injured by doing this? Or
what's funny, everything you see me squat, I've never hurt myself. It's the only time I've ever hurt myself. I hurt my back on the deadlift two years ago. So that's why I only deadlift once a week now. I only do it on Wednesdays. For some reason, it gets to me after a while. I just got to stay loose when it comes to the deadlift.
So in training, are you the same way? Like you just go in and do your work sets and then get out of there? Or do you kind of warm up in the gym?
No, I just go in and get out.
So
I know it sounds funny.
No, man, but whatever, it's whatever works for you, right? Because I mean, like, if you're warming up and like you don't feel good, and you just don't warm up and you feel on, right? Like, why would you change that? Like you said, like, I don't know.
I tried it in high school repeatedly. My body just, I don't know why or what it is. It just won't let me do warm ups and do a workout.
So like, do you feel like when you're saying that, do you feel like fatigued, or you just feel like too loose when you're warming up and it doesn't, like, the heavier weights don't feel right? So what do you mean, like it won't like let you? I feel extremely fatigued by warming up. Like when I squatted at 550, that felt great. But when I squatted at the 540 before that, it felt the same as the 550. When I squatted the 485 before that, it felt almost the same as the 540. Like, I got my body in repetition now, where everything feels the same. But when I warm up and then do it, it feels heavier. I just don't know why, but it always does.
So you go in. Let's say you have a workout like 5 sets of 5 at 400 pounds or 450 or whatever you do. You'll just load on that work set and you'll just get to work.
Yeah, like the first set, while I'm doing it, I can feel all my muscles. And that second set, it's easy. Like, I don't know if y'all ever look at my numbers, but my second squats are always so much higher than my first. And you always look better than my first. It feels great after that. Now my body works just fine. I don't know why, but it's perfect for me. Took me a
It's
while
like
to figure it
it's
out.
almost like a little shock, eh?
Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out, but it works perfect.
I might have to
Wow,
try that. I might try that, but I'll
I
start
don't know.
a little lighter than you do.
Oh, that's very cool, man. That's very cool. I mean, it's certainly unconventional to hear that somebody, you know, in powerlifting doesn't go through a process of warm up or activation or something like that. And you know, I think this is just an example of somebody who's at the elite level, who's kind of is an exception to the rule, because certainly the majority of people have a warm up routine, right? And so, you know,
Yeah.
I think this isn't something that, you know, is probably for everybody, right? You know, it kind of goes against the general rule, but it's something that certainly works for you.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell a lot of people. Like a lot of younger people come up to me and ask me like what I do and everything, and I'll tell them. The next thing I tell them is make sure you understand everything ain't for everybody. You know, like I'm pretty sure Steven can do things that I know I can't do. I probably can do things that he can't do. Like everybody's different. I try to make sure everybody understands that asks me about what I do. Everyone's different.
Yeah, and I mean, and just when because I know Steve's like both of you guys are fantastic at squatting, right? You know, I see Steve's training and I see your training, and you guys have gotten to a very, very elite level squat in two very, very, very different ways. And you know, there's kind of two ways to climb a mountain, right? And you guys have both found that peak in very, very different ways.
So, have you ever considered, like, do you find in a meet your deadlifts are harder because you've squatted already? Like, do you notice that because you say like if you warm up, it's harder. So, does the squats take something out of you for your deadlifts in the competition?
It has in one competition in the past. I don't know if you like I said, if you look at my number, you notice sometimes like I'll go 7 for 7 or 8 for 8. I won't do all my squats because on the second squat I'll go probably 5-10 pounds higher than I normally do, and that way I can skip the third and rest up for the deadlift to try to finish off stronger.
Right. See, because at Raw Nationals, you did 7 for 7, right?
But I was just getting off of a slight back injury then.
Okay.
So that's a good segue into nationals this year in Atlanta. I was actually down there and I saw you competing in the prime time. You had a fantastic day. The weights were looking really, really smooth that day. Can you kind of walk us through your meet day? How did it go? How did the squats go? The bench, the deadlift? Tell us how you did.
Well, before my competition, 2 days before my competitions, I'll test my bench and squat just to see what I can do. So when I went there,
so hold on. So 2 days before you actually built up to like a max weight, or
like I'll try my max on bench and squat and see where I'm at.
And what were the numbers that you hit in the gym 2 days before?
I did 523. I'll do the exact things what I plan on doing at the meet. So the same squat I did that 2 days before, and the same bench I do that 2 days before. The deadlift, it takes a lot out of me to deadlift like I do, so I don't do that 2 days before the meet.
So then walk us through the competition. So you said, you know, you did these 2 days before, and then what happened?
Like when I got out there, I did my first squat. It felt good. I'll do my second squat. The main thing is when I pick it up off the rack, that feeling that I get, if it's a good feeling, it feels just like how I did the first squat, and I know I got it. So after I did that, it felt good. My back wasn't hurting anything. I said, that's a nice squat right there. I'm gonna leave it at that. Move on to the bench. Went through the bench. The last bench, I wasn't as confident on that when I put it down. But luckily, it went back up. So I said, all right, I'm good with that. That last deadlift, when I came up, my back didn't feel 100%. So I look at my brother and we agreed the smartest thing, just leave it right there. No need to push it any further than that. Better be safe than sorry.
So you did 2 squats and only 1 bench?
No, 2 squats, 3 bench, and 2 deadlifts.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the only bench I was worried about was the last one, though.
For sure. And then tell us about your total. What did you total? Obviously you won that competition pretty handedly. Was that something that you expected to do? Was your total what you expected to do?
Now my total was a lot less than what I wanted. But after that last deadlift, I said I need to just be happy with that and don't push it too far. And to be honest with you, I never expect to win anymore because I didn't realize it this competition, but I'm 31 and the other guys lifting that's getting closer and closer, they're like 8, 10 years younger than me. I figure it ain't long before they catch up with me and pass me. So I'm just gonna keep pushing while I can.
I guess you're competing at the Arnold's next year. That's kind of your next meet on the schedule. So you obviously, did you take some time off nationals to kind of just get your back healthy? How's training looking for the Arnold's?
Like I took a month off after nationals, and like you saw the video with the 550 squat. That's me healthy right there. That's me 100% healthy. All I want to do now is try to maintain that. I'm watching what I do, seeing my chiropractor once a week. I'm making sure if I can maintain that health, I should do good. I want to hit 1,500 total. By the end of this year, I want to hit that.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about, obviously out in the, like reading on blogs and out there in the powerlifting community, you qualified for the Worlds in 2017 because you won. It's the same as in Canada. If you win your national class, you qualify for Worlds. And in Canada, it's the same. It's the same as in the States. It's extremely competitive, and you know those top spots are well earned. And just set the record straight. Was it your choice not going to Worlds this year? Was it that you were told that you're not allowed to go to Worlds? What's the real sort of story and answer behind what's happening with Worlds this year?
Like the real story is they didn't invite me because of the way I acted at last year Worlds, but I can't afford to go anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's why you didn't see me making a big deal about it or talking about it. So there's no need for me to be petty and argue about it. It is what it is. Whenever it comes around again that I can't afford it, hopefully I'll be able to go.
And I think that's a very valuable point. Like nobody is getting paid to actually compete at these events, and you know the sponsorships, unless you try to go out and get those yourself. You know they're hard to come by to cover your flights and things like that. And when you're traveling to Europe, man, some nights in a hotel room, you're paying euro. It can get quite expensive to just lift some weights. But to me, hearing that you weren't invited is kind of, even though you can't afford it, it sounds to me like from a principled standpoint, it seems like it's not fair, only because it's an earned position, right? You're out there and you're winning your national class, and you have since 2014. So was there some sort of reason around like just not being invited? Like it doesn't.
They told me it was because of my behavior at Worlds. And like you said, you were there, y'all were there. It is what it is, man. I'm not gonna ever argue with that. If they don't want to invite me, that's up to them. They don't have to invite me. All I'm gonna do is just keep pushing and keep doing what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm 31 years old. It ain't the first time I've come across obstacles in my life. You just keep pushing, man. I'm gonna get where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. So, like, did they give you like any kind of expectations for 2018 Worlds? Like, is this like have they basically banned you from the world team, or is it kind of like a 1-year suspension sort of deal, or was that any of that communicated to you?
The way it seemed like it's a 1-year suspension. They didn't ban me, but like I said, the only reason I went this year it was in Texas.
Yeah.
So until it comes back to the state, there ain't too much I can do about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 2018 is in Canada, right? So it's not too far of a trip, at least.
Yeah, we'll see how things go.
Yeah, remember when I was talking to you a little bit at Worlds there, you said you really enjoy doing more of like the local meets, right? Just like having fun and competing with some like local friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, cause you see me lift, you seen the videos. I'm having fun. I'm having a good time. Sometimes people take it too serious and they lose sight of why you're there. Like this is something I love doing, man. I can't take it that serious where I lose my love for it. It's just that ain't cool to me. They just allow me to be me. Then you see the lifts and the performance that I can put on. But other than that, it's too much. What's the word? I don't know how to feel. Like they just take it in a whole other direction than I take it. Like I push my body, but I have fun at the same time.
Right, that makes sense. What are your big plans this year? I know you're doing the Arnold here in about 8 weeks or so, and then what's the rest of the year plan? Do you have it laid out, kind of thing? Do you know what kind of competitions you're going to aim for? Obviously, you're going to do Raw Nationals again.
Yeah, well, only two is for sure is the Arnold and Raw Nationals. And well, no, I said three. There's one about 20-25 minutes from my house, and my mother will get to see me lift. But for the past year, every time the companies come around where she can see me lift, something happened. It got canceled because of weather. I hurt my back. I just want her to see me lift again. And just a funny fact, but every time she is there, I set an American record in the squat. So I got to make sure she's there for my next one.
Yeah.
Very cool, Keith. I guess to wrap up, just tell us a little bit about how people can find you on Instagram and things like that, and how people can reach out.
You can find me on Instagram at Keith McHoney Powerlifter. I have a website, KeithKMacMcHoney.com. You can find me on Facebook. Let me be clear. On Facebook, there's 3 Keith McHoneys. 2 have dreads, but the other guy's about 6'2". So don't mistake, that's not me. Just look for the shorter one with dreads and muscles.
All right, man. Cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we'll make sure to keep in touch, and we'll be watching for you at the Arnold. And I know Steve will be watching especially close, and keeping a watchful eye in terms of what happens on that squat. And thanks, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Keith.
All right, man.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. I'd like to thank K-Mac for coming on the podcast. If you guys want to go check him out on his Facebook, Instagram, and he has a website. I think it was Keith K-Mac McHoney, I'm pretty sure. But check him out. Don't forget to go to our website, www.canadianpowerliftingpodcast.com. You guys can check out episodes there for more content. And also, don't forget to go to our Facebook page and send your weekly videos and any training footage you have. And we do our recaps and the intros. So send those videos in. Don't forget to like our page. And if you guys want us to discuss anything else, feel free to shoot us a message. We are out of here.
And hold on, just before we get out of here, if you're listening and you're just like, man, Steve sounds great today. He just sounds so great on the mic. Because Steve just figured out how to turn on his podcasting mic. So if you've been listening over the course of the last 3 seasons, this is the first episode that Steve has had his podcasting mic turned on. This is fantastic, guys. Thumbs up for production value here.
Game changer.
And looking forward to seeing the K-Mac and the Steve Dog go head to head on the squats here pretty soon.
I've never been called Steve Dog before.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just something I made up right now.
It's pretty sweet.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
Farewell.
You've been listening to the Canadian Powerlifting Podcast, the podcast that brings you the best of powerlifting in Canada, hosted by Stephen Cassioli, Ryan Stinn, and myself, Abby Silverberg. Please follow us on Instagram and check out our website for some great free powerlifting content at www.canadianpowerliftingpodcast.com. If you like what you heard today, please rate our podcast on iTunes and don't forget to listen to every other Thursday for a brand new episode.